Hello, calligraphers. Today's title is Mistakes, Mistakes, Mistakes. And guess why? We're going to make a bunch of them today. I've already made a bunch. So you get to learn by watching me mess up and what I've made mistakes on, and I'll show you a few ways you might be able to correct them. Now I'm going to shift the camera over so that you'll be able to see the work area much better and more close up. Okay? Give me a second, I'll change it here. Here we are. First mistake I want to show you. Last time we talked about parallel lines. Well, got some here, but take a look at this horrible mistake. I didn't have the right amount of ink in my nib, and as you can see, these lines came out pretty well. This is a little darker, this is even darker still, and even with the ruler, somehow or another, I've got a wiggle right here. And I think what happened is, as I moved down, I think my hand shifted like this, and that caused this little dent right here. So you really have to lock your wrist, even when using the ruler, and pull gently on the outside to keep it straight. I think I probably either turned it like this or turned it like that. Now, this was the sacrificial test paper. And you can see we were trying to do the Roman columns up here. I'm not happy with 5 rows. So what I'm going to do, and I've already started drawing it here on this test piece in pencil, is 7 cuts into the Roman column. Now, if you look here, these flare out at different angles, and that's to try to give that three-dimensional effect. How did I do that? I used my compass. There's the mark I used for the last one. So if I come over here, I'll show you how we did that. Like this, and then I tightened up to go farther out, because there's going to be more of a curve observed on the edge of the circular column than there will be near the middle, where you can see that very middle one is straight up and down because the view of the looker is straight onto it. So this is going to be the look of our column. What do I have to do? I have to get the lines the same length and the same width. And the hard part is going to be right up here. It's getting this straight line to mesh with the curved line. Now, I made some mistakes earlier where I tried to draw this and then match with my other nib. Couldn't do it. And for 3 straight mistakes, I forgot. I can just take this off in the same setting and put it onto here. And now I don't have to worry about different settings. Okay? So, my mistake, my mistake, my mistake. What can I say? I botched it. Let me get this back on here. There we are. These were practice strokes for the beginning of my A in art. And what I was trying to do was just to get my hand used to the motion, but I also wanted to get a good length and width on it. And what I did was I made tiny marks on the back here so I could transfer them on to the actual presentation piece. Yes, this was supposed to be a presentation piece. This is still a practice one. I'm going to get back to it. Here we are. This is the pencil drawing of the art, which I can now use when I do ink. I've already done the ink for the and of and the art of. Remember, it's going to be calligraphy, the art of writing well. So I've done these small ones. I'm confident in my small work. The taller work I need to plot out much better. Now this pencil line can be erased after this ink is clearly dry. When is it clearly dry? I like to let it sit overnight. I know it's probably ready now, but probably can't cut it because once I thought it was dry, and when I erased, I took off just the top of the ink, and underneath there was still some liquid ink, so I got a nice smear on my paper. Speaking of smears and things, the underside of my ruler has gotten smudges of ink on it, and I wanted to address that because I had some smudges on here. There's the last residual of one right here and right here. How did I get rid of them? I used an Exacto knife and scraped the ink off very gently. I will show you. I've made a smudge over here on a practice sheet. See this right here? And a couple of years ago, I was doing a presentation piece. I was doing a poem, and I had gotten 3/4 of the way down the page, and honestly, I just wrote the wrong letter. The word was adult or something like that. Anyway, I put the D where the A should have been. And so I talked with a man who specializes in correcting ink mistakes, and he said, get a curved Exacto knife and then just scrape like you're petting the wings of a butterfly. The idea of the curve is it won't dig into the paper as much. And if you do this slowly, you have to really take it easy. But remember what that looked like before. If you need to, go back. And you can see that I am gradually, by gently scraping, I'm taking the ink off. I will do it in different directions so that I don't create a divot in the paper all in the same direction. If it's a shallow scrape, people will notice it less than if it's a straight gouge. Now this is regular typing paper, so this will damage much more easily. But you can see I've already started, even with this bad paper, how just this gentle scraping motion can lift a mistake up. Take your time. You cannot be too gentle, but you can be too rough. You see how that's taking the ink up? Slowly and carefully, petting the wings of a butterfly. That was the instruction that he told me that I can still remember to this day, because it tells you how gentle you have to be. Now that's been about 3 minutes, and as you can see, about half the mistake is already gone. What you do have is torn paper here, and that's what's creating that look. You won't get that with the better paper. This is just regular printing paper for your computer. But you can see how much of that has come off. Now, to give you an idea, on this one, I found 4 little smudges, and unless I hold the paper against a shining light, you couldn't see that it's here, 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 and there. And that probably came from the bottom of my ruler. So, how do we get ink off the bottom of the ruler? Same way we do everything else. Higgins pen cleaner. I'm only going to do this in little spots because I am worried that Higgins might take up some of the markings that I really want to have. There are no markings on the top of this, and you can see how it's beginning to take off the ink stains from the top and the bottom, and it seems to be leaving the print alone. I still want to be careful about that, though. So lots of times you will get bad mistakes from just something as ordinary as you've gotten paper, pencil marks from a previous work on there. See, that looks a lot cleaner now, doesn't it? There's still some over here. I can get that, but this is a vast improvement, and maybe now I won't leave marks on my presentation piece by using a dirty ruler. And Higgins pen cleaner, like so many things, has cleaned that right up. You can see the dirt that it has picked up off the bottom. And that was transferring onto my work, and that is yet another mistake that I have made. Now here's a mistake I managed to avoid, and that was making sure I defined my workspace. If you look very closely, I've put an 1.5 inch border here, an 1.25 inch on the top, 1.5 inch over here. This is a rectangular piece of paper, and so I don't necessarily need the same margins on the top as I do on the sides. But there is one thing that I have to be careful of. I don't want to go over this very much at all because there may at some point be a frame around this. Okay? Here's my center mark. It's hard to see, but here's one, here's the other. That's the center of the paper. Remember I told you to go on the diagonals here? Things just coming from everywhere on this. And then I have measured the lines off from the diagonals, from here down to the bottom. So this word is the center of the presentation. Writing well will go here, and I will have the columns on this side, and I will have a vine curling around and joining up with the calligraphy that's up here. So the vining part is going to be the hardest. I want to show you what happens here if I try to draw a vine. If I tried to draw this vine just like this and wrapped it around like that, it looks all right until I start having to put the leaves on it. And then they're going to overlap the column. So unlike paint, where you do your background first, here we will want to do our vine first, put the leaves on it, like so. And then bring the lines close down to it, and then just stop right in front. Because remember, we're talking ink here. We can't paint over. And you see how I've stopped just short, and that'll create a little halo effect where there will be a little bit of white. And that will make the 3D look of the vines come out. So the vines go on first, then we draw our lines down to the vine and leave them just a little short like that. Okay? Practice your strokes someplace else. Get them in your muscle memory. Then we'll bring them over to the presentation piece here. Having it in pencil makes it a lot easier. You're not tracing, but you're just using it as a guide. Don't think that you're going to trace over the mark. You still have to draw the letter, okay? And remember, you can use different nibs. I'm going to use my thinnest nib here, and then I'm going to switch over to a C4 to make this line, and then I'm going to do the thin nibs here again, the pointed pins. So for this straight down pull, I want it to be regular, and I'm going to use a C4 for that. So you can use different nibs even on the same letter, all right? So now you have some ideas about what originally you think looks great, and then you see you've got a big blob of ink up here. These three are good, but the first two I made had already set the tone for a bad piece. So they don't get used. I'm also going to redraw these the column heads up here to make them go out a little bit farther. These are too squished in, and I think I want them a lot more round like this. That looks too squished. And then I will have the columns coming in 1, 2, 3. Well, we'll do 7 on the presentation. I keep practicing 5 for some reason. So I need to get this 7 lines here. And that is going to be tough to make them all the same. But remember, it's hand-drawn. People will understand that there's a little bit of difference, and that makes the piece really stand out. It doesn't look artificial. It looks like something a human really did, and hand-drawn is still attractive to people. All right? So give it your best. If you want to take a picture of what you're doing and send it in to me, I'd love to see it. Luke already did that for me. Thank you very much. And that was magnificent what he did. Keep trying it. Keep improving it. The only way you're going to get better at this is to take your time. This planning here is going to make a big difference on the columns there because it's just the column. It'll make the whole piece stand out better. All right? Thank you so much for watching. Like and share. Let me know what you think of it. And trust me, I'll be making even more mistakes. We could probably have an entire video series on how Mr. Parks messes up on calligraphy. But in the end result, it's that last time where you make it count that matters. So go ahead and make the mistakes on your practice sheets. Make your little ink blob someplace where it doesn't matter. If you do, an Exacto knife, after the ink has dried, gently scraping, may be able to save. And you see, here's another mistake. Trooper just came and he loves to nudge my elbow with his nose. Don't you, Troop? Say hi. All right, folks. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.